Hey guys, it's Oluchi for Ways Breakfast. Thanks for always tuning in. Our research has shown that you're probably not subscribed to our channel. What are you waiting for? Make sure you hit that subscribe button below so you never miss out on our latest content and stay in the loop with all things Ways. If the channel grows, it means more great content for you guys. So hit that subscribe button now.
Nigeria, by extension Africa, battles a growing youthful population and with little or no meaningful engagement leaves a ticking time bomb on our hands. We are a blessed continent with great wealth, both in people and material. Our focus on ways remains driving conversations that affects us all. Topics in the news, social concerns, politics, leadership, governance, empowerment, resource management, conflict management, finance, SME sustainability, technological innovation, food security, health, education, brain drain, our well-being, citizenship, and much more. Our goal is to continuously drive these conversations, keep them burning at the table to effect a positive change both for our nation and continent. Ways, what are you saying, has a secret ingredient that completes the conversation every single episode, and that ingredient is you. Our past conversations shaped our yesterday. To shape our tomorrow, we must keep talking. So, I want to hear you. Be a part of our live conversations Mondays through Fridays. And let's all have our say. International Women's Day, marked annually on the 8th of March, is a global call to action for gender equality and the empowerment of women. The 2025 theme, Accelerate Action, highlights the urgent need to move beyond discussions and take decisive steps, to ensure that women's rights are upheld in every sector of the society. In Nigeria, gender disparity remains deeply entrenched, manifesting in political, economic, and social spaces. Recent events, such as the suspension of Senator Natasha Akpoti-Oduanga, further underscores the systemic challenge that women face in leadership and governance. This year's International Women's Day provides an opportunity to amplify calls for respect, protection, equality, and equity for Nigerian women. It's another beautiful episode, a great week on your favorite primetime show, Ways. My name remains Osayiwame Saleh. Today, we want to delve into the issues around the 2025 theme for the International Women's Day, which is Accelerate Action for Gender Equality. And we have an amazing guest that will be joining us much later, Wemimo Adewuni. She is the the Women and Communications Manager at Women Advocate Research and Documentation Center. She'll be joining me much later. But remember, first of all, Ways is all about you. You are the why in Ways. So be a part of the conversation. Every single day, add your voice to the discussion. You can head on now to our YouTube channel. If you haven't subscribed yet, please go there, hit the subscribe button, like, share, invite your families and friends to watch, and follow the show right now. They can join us live as it's happening. All right, so when I open the phone lines, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Yes, I missed myself on Thursday and Friday on the show. But yes, I did not leave the weekend without leaving my thoughts on Senator Natasha Akpoti. So I would love to hear your thoughts on this. Yes, as always, let me allow you ponder on my quote for today. It says, one of the best ways to forge gender equality is to understand what works and to do more of this faster. I think that's just a simple, just understand what works and do it faster. So we'll delve into all of this much later. First, let me run off on a break. When I come back from that break, I'll let you in on my news interests for the day. Stay with me. All right, thanks for staying with me. I'll start off the conversation with, would I call it good news? Yes. So the UTME, what's it called, JAM exams, they've shared a report for the 2025 entry, and they're saying that this is the first time in history where they're getting this much number of people that are registered for the UTME. This is the highest number they have ever registered so far. According to the report, they said that over 2 million, okay, so let me just give the exact figure, 2,030,627 candidates have registered for this year's exam. They said that it's the highest number of applications the board has ever received in its history of conducting UTME, and this was contained in the board's weekly bulletin in Abuja today. And they said that the registration had closed on the 8th of March, and that over 1.9 million candidates applied for the UTME. But JAM said that the number excludes the candidates who registered to sit for the exam at foreign centers. So according to, additionally, they said over 200,000 candidates expressed interest in taking optional mock UTME that would hold on the 5th of April, 2025. They also touched on implementing several innovative measures to deter cheating, maintaining the integrity of the examination process, and that these measures have already led to multiple arrests of candidates attempting to use forged A-level results for admissions, highlighting the effectiveness of the system that is designed to detect fraud. And they are also advising candidates strongly to adhere to the examination rules and regulation and refrain from any dishonest practices during the examination. So yeah, this is good news. I'm hoping that they don't have glitches, because I remember when my son was writing these exams 2 years ago, they had some glitches in his center. He had to go back again to go and write it. I don't know how really prepared we are for, what's it called, computer-based exams. Which is, whether we like it or not, that is the future. We can't go back to paper, exams, but I'm just hoping that the internet will cooperate, the systems will not crash and all of that, because those are the small glitches that a lot of people that write this kind of exams face. I'll move on to my next story. So monitoring Senator Natasha's case, the court had adjourned, her suit. So she had filed a suit that was going to, the suit was supposed to help give her a restraining order for the Senate Committee on Ethics and Privileges, to stop them from investigating her. This suit had been adjourned till, I think they've adjourned it to 25th of March. I also saw another news story that said that the court have also invited Akpabio and I think some members of the Senate to also come and present, what's it called, their own, whatever they present in the court. Sorry, I'm not a lawyer. I'll move on to the next story. And this is, I don't know, okay, so let me put allegedly, because this one is not in news, but there was a WhatsApp post just flying all over the place. And this just, the reason I'm highlighting this is that it helps us to understand what is going on with the crop of leaders that we have currently. So the Senator Imaswe, right, or the chairman, the man don't suffer, and it's from my state too. The chairman that is, overseeing he's the chairman on the ethics and public petition. That's the committee, right, that was set up, the chairman. They have also called him out, allegedly, for defrauding some people in the U.S. of tons of money, millions of legal fees that was paid by his clients in the U.S. And because of that singular act, the report said that he was disbarred from the U.S. His name was struck out from the list of, what's the word now, practicing role of attorneys and counselors at law. And this was done in 2010. So many people are saying that if somebody of this kind of questionable character is the one heading, ethics committee, then what exactly are we doing, if he was allegedly accused of fraud and misconduct, So it just says that in this current dispensation, right? Most of our leaders that are at the helms of affairs, most of them, one way or the other, there have just been so many kinds of reports that is just indicting them in some manner. So I'm wondering, okay, if you have a lot of, allegedly have a lot of stains or a lot of flaws in your own hands, how are you able to then call out somebody, or how are you able to then sit to say somebody else is wrong? There's just a lot of things going wrong. And I don't know how our leaders are able to stomach some of these things. Because I, for one, if I have something that is very, very grave, that is being alleged of, the honorable thing I'll do is step aside. I'm sorry, I don't think I qualify to fit in this role, because I also have some unclean hands, and I don't want to be part of this, because I am not, it's not morally right for me to be there. I mean, these are things that you don't need to be told, or you don't need to be compelled to do. Do you understand? It's just the sensible thing to do. I don't think I'm the right fit for this. Let somebody else that has an unquestionable character that is not flawed and all of that come and do this. But hey, we don't see that. But who am I? Who am I to ask for that? So final story that I would like to bring to our attention is the story on, because, we've been monitoring Rivers State. Resign or be impeached. The APC chairman tells Fubara, his name is Okocha, right? He tells Fubara that he should resign and be impeached, that as far as they are concerned in Rivers State, the rulings of the Supreme Court stands, and that the invitation of the 27 lawmakers, according to him, that is a Greek gift, that at this point, Fubara has no choice. It's either he does the honorable thing, which is resign, or he's impeached. There has just been a lot of talks around impeachment and threats for unrest and all of those things. I don't know. I really hope that Rivers State will be able to, survive this thing without any bloodshed. I'm just hoping so, because, yeah, at some point it just seems like it is more of an ego thing at play. Nobody's really considering that governance is suffering at this point. Nobody's looking at all of those things. Well, but hey, we'll see how it goes. We'll keep our eyes on the story and keep monitoring the story. I'm just hoping that no life is lost in this process, because I don't understand where we're going with it. All right, we'll take a break. When we come back from that break, let's discuss women. Stay with us.
Life is made up of moments, some that fill us with joy, others that test our strength. Welcome to Heartlines. This is our space to explore the highs and lows of human connection, the love, the heartbreak, and resilience that shapes our life. From relationships to friendships, parenting to partnerships, and so much more. Every week, we share stories and conversations that define us, navigating love, separations, the struggles of parenting, dealing with anxiety and managing the pressures and stress of life. Real conversations that bring us closer, helping us heal, grow, and connect. So join me Mondays through Fridays at 10 p.m. for Heartlines, the show where we'll connect hearts, have real conversations with real people, one story at a time.
Thanks for staying tuned. Now, Nigerian women continue to encounter barriers that hinder their full participation in society, from political exclusion to workplace discrimination and gender-based violence. The struggle for equality is far from over. Now, recently, of course, we know that Senator Natasha Akpoti have been given a 6-month suspension from the Senate. And this is a glaring example of how women in leadership are often subjected to unjust treatment and systemic bias. Her suspension raises concerns about the political victimization of women and the broader implications for female representation in governance. If women in positions of power can be silenced in such a manner, it begs the question, how safe and respected are women in other sectors of Nigerian society? Women also continue to face high rates of gender-based violence, economic inequality, and restricted access to education and healthcare. Report shows that over 30% of women have experienced some form of violence, yet justice remains exclusive for many survivors. Elusive, rather, for many survivors. Without urgent reforms and decisive actions, these challenges will persist, preventing the country from achieving, of course, true gender equality. Joining me to discuss this subject of the accelerated action for gender equality is Wemimo Adewuni. As said earlier, she's the communications manager at the Women Advocate Research and Documentation Center. Thank you so much for joining me, Wemimo.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Good evening.
Okay, good evening. All right, so Wemimo, first of all, I would love to hear your thoughts on Senator Natasha Akpoti versus the Senate President Godswill Akpabio. Let us even start with that foundation first. What are your general thoughts? You know, when the story broke, you know, how did you just kind of like assess the entire situation in your own worldview?
Well, for me, initially it was trying to identify that there were two issues that have a very strong overlap, however. So the first issue is that was raised about the sitting arrangement in the Senate and her raising an objection about her seat being moved without having informed prior to the House. I'm trying to raise Order 10, which allows any senator to, it's sort of an emergency invocation of right to say, I have to say something quite urgent. Now, the drama that ensued is, got me, the response of the Senate President when she raised Order 10 went like, throw her out of the Senate, prepare her suspension immediately. And I went, hello, this is your colleague, right? You're speaking about your colleague and you are issuing a sort of suspension immediately because you do not like that she raised an order and she wanted to raise an objection, which, remember very clearly, videos never lie. Akpabio was in this same situation in 2018 when Paula Saraki was Senate President. He threw a big tantrum. I commend Natasha because she didn't throw a tantrum. She stood on her seat, just continued to speak. She did not scream. She didn't scratch anybody. She wasn't shouting. She just continued speaking. Akpabio, on the other hand, raised a whirlwind and, in fact, was trying to use Dume's microphone, if you remember.
Yeah. Because
his microphone was working. And the House allowed him to retain his seat. Now, I have nothing to say about, how the House decides to arrange. It's actually right for the Senate to have an orderly sitting arrangement. But I also know that it is cautious and it is right to pre-inform someone when their seat will be moved. And that person has a right to also raise an objection if they believe that it's not just a moving of seat, that there's more to it.
Yeah.
Now, when she, in the media, raised the point about sexual harassment, we could then see that there was more to her outburst and a refusal to vote.
Yeah. I was just going to say that, Wemimo, is this not a natural thing in Nigeria where, in quote, I'll put it in quote, that elders are not to be questioned? Do you get my point? Because this is the thing that we see all the time play out. You say, move your seat from point A to point B. I am not allowed to ask you why, right?
Why?
Why am I not allowed to ask you why? Do I not deserve an explanation?
Right. The list of whys keep going on. And you hear one of the senators, when they were delivering their judgment, the ethics committee, someone made a proverbial remark to say that Natasha is just like a recalcitrant child. And that we know that recalcitrant children, when we beat them, we pull them back, we draw them back, and we appease them. referring to his colleague as a recalcitrant child that could be beaten and then corrected at the will of the elder. We also saw one of the female senators, King, who also wanted to say, infer that, Natasha was to her a junior, wasn't elderly enough. The Senate is reserved for the elderly. And, my inference from their conversations is she's lucky to have a dip in the bowl with the elders. Like they say.
But is this not just sad, Wemimo? Is this not just sad? Because, you see, this is what we say. Same thing played out in Lagos State, where the very first speaker in the history of Nigeria was elected, and she only spent 50 days in office, and she was made to resign. I kept on asking this question. Somebody said, "Don't make it a gender thing," right? I kept on asking that if it were a man that was that was appointed or sworn in, do you think that that man would easily just let go of that power? Same thing you said about Akpabio. Akpabio had the same face-off with Bukola Saraki. It was a marketplace. The place was chaotic. Do you understand? And yet people are not seeing this. People are just only seeing that, oh. So I keep on wondering, when would we start to understand that these things are deeper? Because it seems like I have your type in the house. So when I'm talking, you keep quiet. It is no longer a colleague thing. Former Senator Itagiwa put out a statement to say that when a woman comes out, when the woman is elected and she then makes it to the house, she is no longer a woman, she is a person. At that point, they are all equals. And I tell her that it's a lie. Because if you say that a woman is equal in that house, then we should stop advocating for, for female seats. Because I remember there was a time where they wrote a bill to say they wanted to create 5 seats, specifically for women. And it was thrown out. Why would you be advocating for female seats if you are all equal? So is it that I think there's a lot of confusion, and I think the confusion is even more on the part of even women than even the men, because I don't understand why we're not able to come together, unite with one voice, right? And this action we are talking about accelerating, it is in all of these small things that we can start to solve some of the big, deep-seated issues. But I don't see that happening. That a fellow female senator will come out and say that it's a sign of weakness, that at that point you are equal. And I'm saying that no, that seat, clearly with the way their actions, played out, it shows that they are only doing that same thing because she's a woman. If she were to be a man, I don't think that approach would have been taken. But what are your thoughts on all the things I've just said and what Senator Itagiwa also said?
So, this situation exposed a lot of things, like you rightly said. It exposed the gender disparity that we see within our families, our workplaces, our community. It's just kind of the norm that as a woman, you should be reserved, you should be quiet, you should not be argumentative, you should respect authority. Never mind if the authority is your colleague, but the authority on the other side is male, then you should be more respectful. A man cannot argue with a man, but a woman arguing with a man is out of place. And it also exposed institutionalized patriarchy. So we can see the patriarchy is not just driven by men. It's now institutionalized and defended by some women who also believe, who have been conditioned by their environment, experiences, and circumstances to believe that the way of life that they've known is what it should continue to be. Never mind that some of them were also in instances just previously where they were also harassed. Thirdly, it exposed that Nigeria grossly does not understand what sexual harassment is. And that sexual harassment is a bit difficult to prove, because unless you're walking around with a camera, harassment is easier to achieve by the assaulter, right? If someone speaks to you, harassment is not just in it's not in the action,
like just even a word.
Absolutely, a word. If someone makes a
remark,
comment,
yes,
it makes a sexual innuendo about your look. You could comment on my earring, and it could be harassment, depending on how you say it. If you sexualize me within a workplace, in your words or action, or you hit me in the wrong place while I'm passing, all of those are sexual harassment. If you make use of words that refer to me as a sexual object, unless we have a sexual relationship going on and I've given you the power to do so, it is sexual harassment. And so when everyone jumps on social media and say, oh yeah, then let's her come prove it. And asking the question, should women begin to walk around with body cams?
Wemimo, I don't know about you, but I have been in several rooms, and this is not me. I'm not as pretty as Natasha Akpoti. You understand? This is me in my ugly state.
No
but,
way.
But I can tell you, Wemimo, I've gone into different offices.
You are very pretty. Okay, we all can see your face, and you are.
No, but I don't measure to Natasha at all. But I want to say that this is me in this my small space, and I can tell you for free that I go into an office with a proposal, meaning business. I want to talk to this man, and we're having a conversation, and the next thing is saying, we should travel together. We should go to the hotel, you understand? Meet me somewhere. Let's go and do lunch. Let's go and do this. Clearly, those are signs of harassment. How do I prove to someone? You understand? The least I do is just say, you know what? I carry my load. This one is not not ready for business. I carry my load and I go. And I can tell you several occasions that has happened. So I don't understand how this institutionalized patriarchy, you know, and what is even most painful is the fact that women are now the ones even supporting it and fully giving it backing. Because shortly after all of the drama that happened, some women came out to go and give Senator Godswill Akpabio an award, saying that he's the most... So what are you trying to prove? So I think sometimes, and this is why I run away from holidays like International Women's Day. I run away from all these groups that say they support women supporting women, because I just feel like we still haven't gotten it. Because the first people that will throw the woman under the bus are not the men. Sometimes men are even more empathetic towards the women's plight. The first set of people that will throw the woman under the bus will be the women. You know? So how do we start to bring this consciousness?
Let me explain something here. And I don't want us to make a mistake, right? There are very strong and sound women's rights advocates who support women. And I know that people say it a lot, that women don't support women. And I would, despite the situations that happened in the recent time, I would tell you that is incorrect. There are lots and lots of women, and I tell you assuredly, because what is part and the leading Women Manifesto, a group of over 350 women's rights groups, who have shown in word and deed, in true action, that they support women. I have been supported by women along my life, and I know that women do support women. But there are always a few bunch in the pack who still believe that, you know, they struggle to be here, and it's a sort of cycle that they continue to perpetuate. Remember that it's a conditioning for them. And some of them also are seeking favors from the powers that be. They want to be the first women in the door, and they want to go further. Some of them do not mind trading the truth, throwing the other women under the bus. But women support women. Let us never forget that. You will see in the days to come more actions from these women's groups who are going to put their voices out very strongly in support of Natasha Akpoti. The conversations have been ongoing. She has enjoyed a lot of support from Women Manifesto, as with many other women groups. So it is not true that women do not support women. It is, however, disappointing and shameful that out of 4 senators of 109 senators, 3 of these 4 have decided to be, I'm being careful with my words, they've just decided to be, and it's really very disappointing. Some of them haven't spoken, 1 of them or 2 haven't spoken out really clearly, but their silence is very loud. It's very loud. And when they go ahead to give an award, on the same day that the senator was being suspended, they were holding a parallel meeting, a women's meeting in the Senate, right? And so on the day she was being suspended, there was no woman with her in the Senate. She was alone in the House with the other boys. So the boys' club decided her fate, and some of the women also signed her fate for her to be suspended for 6 months. Pretty sad, I must say, pretty sad.
Very, very sad. You know what, let's go on a break. When we come back from that break, we'll have more insight on the Accelerated Action for Gender Equality, and I have my amazing guest with me. Stay with me. All right, thanks for staying tuned. Now, remember, you can join this conversation. Send us an SMS or WhatsApp to 081-803-84663. You can also call that WhatsApp line as well. Our phone lines to call on regular calls 07025007749 or 070-1424-2420. It would be nice to hear what you have to say. So I would like to just quickly move on, Wemimo, because we have a lot of things to cover. Like key areas for urgent action, right? One would be the political and leadership inclusion, right? Of course, we know that the government must ensure that there's a fair representation of women, which is what I said, by in leadership, by enforcing some gender-inclusive policies and protecting female politicians from targeted discrimination, you know, and legal framework should be provided, right, to strengthen what's it called, to strengthen their positions, you know, in various places of office, and also to prevent unjust removal, like what we're seeing, you know, and suppression of the women in those leadership roles. So when we say that we need to intentionally create those legal frameworks and those policies, how else can we do that? Because again, I mentioned before how a case was thrown out, right? And if we keep on having a majority of men in that, in positions where policies are being made, right? How do we ensure that those men become allies where they are now fighting for the interest of women? Because as it is right now, we really might not be able to have a good number of women, you know, in those positions where policies are being drafted and laws are being passed, right? So how do we start to get more men over to our side? You know, because some people have argued that Natasha now is spoiling the future of female politicians, right? Meaning that, and I beg to differ because I don't think so. I think, you know, if for anything, she has come out to show. You know, I said to my sister, I think my sister and I were talking, she said, the first person I will ever vote for female president will be Natasha. But if she ever comes out to say she wants to be the president of Nigeria, because she has shown to us that she's not just, you know, a pushover. She's someone that is ready to go through and through. Look at the hassle she faced during when she was being elected. You know, how somebody dug a hole, she covered the hole. I mean, there were so many things. I've been following her story, and I know she's a very strong and powerful woman. But in that strength and power, she needs these kinds of policies to be in place to protect her, you know, her seats and all of that. How do we get that, right? How do we ensure that the government starts to intentionally protect the rights of women?
Well, we can begin currently with the Senate. Right, so it is obvious that the Senate does not have the sexual harassment policy within its own house, and hence, when she presented her first petition, the argument was that, oh, she signed the petition. You would imagine and expect that a matter of sexual harassment, especially against the Senate president, would have been taken as a matter of urgency. But what we found was that the Senate threw that out because they said that she did not follow procedure, which meant that they expected her to have gone through so many steps to get this taken. Now, we would expect that we can start by developing a policy within the Senate that makes it easy to report sexual harassment and assault. On the bigger scale, and this is also for the Senate, the bills that you mentioned earlier are still before the Senate. We remember how they were quite eagerly thrown out in the 9th National Assembly, the 5 gender bills. Now, the bills are still under discussion with the Senate to see how they can be brought in, which includes, and it will be interesting to know that right now, a Nigerian woman who marries a non-Nigerian man cannot automatically confer citizenship on her husband. A man can, however, do that if he marries a non-Nigerian woman. You'll also find out that if you're married as a woman in Nigeria, you become practically stateless. So are you from your father's state, which you had claimed all the way before marriage, or are you now from your husband's state? All of those discussions. Also in the National Assembly, one of the problems we have right now is that there are only 4 women. If we had about 60 women in the Senate right now, it is, I believe it's quite impossible that 58 of them would have gone the way these 2 or 3 have gone. We will find strong voices and they become also more confident, just like Natasha has. We'll have more women like her are assertive and who are not apologetic about their assertive nature, as long as we are on the side of truth, they will always find support. So these are bills that we can, as per getting them as allies, conversations are always ongoing with the National Assembly, both the House of Reps and the Senate. I can assure you, WASI does a lot of advocacy work. We develop policy briefs, we meet with them. We had a meeting recently on the BAP, with the judges. So just many of them still don't know that there is a BAP Act. They don't know how to implement it. So we do a lot of work around that, and you find many of them are men. So a lot of work is ongoing in that space. But the first thing we need to do is get more women into the room. Women would understand women's matters.
Hey, Wemimo, do you think this would be possible?
Women, please.
Do you think this will be possible? See, let's not kid ourselves. This thing opened my eyes. Do you understand? Do you think this will be possible? Because as it is now, it's like men just think that senator position is meant for them alone. It'd be like, say, as a woman, you're not supposed to near there at all. What are you doing there? Your mates are in the kitchen. Because I don't understand why your fellow colleague, you're treating that person as if the person is your what's it called, your subordinate.
Yeah. You remember how now First Lady Remi Tinubu was also addressed the Senate by Dino
Melaye, yes.
Said that I would rape you, something of such sort in public. Like they have no regard for women. They have no regard.
And that was why, Wemimo, that was why it was shocking to me when the president's wife came out to say what she said about Natasha's case. You two were harassed. Do you understand? Yes. If at all, for anything, you should understand that this thing has become like a... You are saying that it's a hallowed chamber. It's supposed to be a respected, whatever. But clearly, these men they disregard the what's it called, the power that chamber carries, that it wields. Because you come up with statements like nightclub, you come up with a statement like as if this, when Dino Menaye said that thing, people came after him. But I think she has quickly forgotten, that she also went through similar thing.
No, she has not forgotten. I mean, you hardly forget things like that. You hardly forget things like that. She has just obviously taken a position that favors her and is in her own interest. Very sad, but that's the truth. She's taken a position that favors her and serves her own interest, and she doesn't mind that the interests of millions of young girls who are also facing harassment in schools, in workplaces, juniors, interns, researchers, and so on, who are, it's a power control thing. And the higher in that power scale that your assaulter is, the less your power to report. So what has happened to Natasha has shown us, unfortunately, is pushing a narrative that women should be quiet unless they have a body cam that shows that a man possibly squeezed your bum when you were walking, or a man continuously harassed you by using sexual words at you in the office space, or a man continuously demanded sexual favors from you and even sidelined you on some project because you did not agree. So it's an unfortunate narrative, and like I said earlier, women groups are going to make their voices louder. We've been speaking, but our voices will even be louder.
Well, I'm really looking forward to that. I'm really looking forward to that. So let's talk legal reforms and accountability. So of course, they said Nigeria must fully implement existing gender equality laws. I think you've mentioned a few of that, and eliminate legal loopholes that allow discrimination to persist. Law enforcement agencies also must be trained to handle gender-related cases with fairness and urgency. So, like what you rightly said, clearly, they've not had any issue around gender stuff within the Senate. So they didn't know how to handle it. So when she signed petition, they came back to say, you cannot sign the petition yourself. She went back. You know what, let's take a call. Good evening. Lama, good evening.
Hello.
Hi, good evening. Thank you for calling. Hello, Lama, are you there? Can you hear us? Oh, sorry, apologies. So do you understand, Wemimo, you get my point, right?
Yes.
So even how to handle cases like this, right? They are like you rightly said, let them even begin to set some of these rules, right? And how we can also train our law enforcement agencies to say, okay, these are real issues and this is how it should be handled. So how do we go about those ones? Because again, there has to be some level of fairness, you know, when you're handling this kind of issue. Because in all of these things, I didn't hear anybody say, okay, you know what, Senate President, why don't you step aside? Let us investigate the situation, which is supposed to be the fair thing to do. Both of you, plus the accuser and the accusee, step aside, right? And let us investigate this issue. Then when we come out with our findings, we reinstate who needs to be reinstated and all of that. But no, not such thing was done. So how do we start to intentionally call for those kinds of, what's it called, fairness and manner to which issues are being handled? Yeah. Okay, so I think Loma is back. Sorry, Wemimo. Let me just take the call. I think he's back. Loma, are you back? Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Yeah, good evening, my sister.
Thank you, Loma.
See, the topic is accelerate action for gender equality. One big question I really want to ask us, will there ever be gender equality in Nigeria? Because from the creation, man was first created. God made man before woman. So by creation, there can never be gender equality. But I'm not saying that women should be insulted. I'm not saying that women should be denigrated. They should be respected. But you see that of Natasha Akpoti in the Senate, the way she carried on her protest was not good. She's supposed to follow it with decorum and make sure she protests in such a way we, the common Nigerian, will stand by her side. The way she was making it, you don't make yourself look as if you're so beautiful that somebody is after you. What is beautiful? What is enjoyment in that? What 5 minutes or 10 minutes or 15, and it will go away. And this is what they are using to stop, make Nigerians not to talk about the good things they're supposed to do for us. They're supposed to give us good government. The Senate is supposed to give us, make good laws that will benefit Nigerians. And they're talking about somebody wanting to have this and that for you. It's quite unfortunate.
Thank you.
What I'm just saying is that there is need for Nigeria, for Senate to be Senate, and let there be respect.
All right, thank you for women and thank you, Loma, for your contribution. Wemimo, do you want to go ahead?
See, I held my breath all through. Oh, please, spare me. Please, sir, spare me. Don't do that. Don't do that. You're insinuating that this is a distraction and it's stopping them from their legislative duties. Who's stopping them from legislating? Nobody has stopped them from legislating. How many bills? What have they been doing all year long? So if a woman raises a sexual harassment bill, that is when you remember that they ought to be working. Oh, my life's just gone up.
It's fine.
Remember they ought to be working, right? The senators should legislate. That's the work they're being paid to do. And nobody has asked them not to do so. But a matter of sexual harassment is never a distraction. Please don't say that again. And don't tell me that there was a way she should have reported sexual harassment. If you were harassed by a fellow man, I know that in Nigeria, homosexuality is wrong. If a man had sexually harassed a man in the Senate, I can assure you that they would not have handled it in this same manner. They would have raised the ruckus, they would have suspended that fellow, and they would have set up a committee instantly. Men somehow do not tolerate sexual harassment against themselves, but when it's a woman complaining about sexual harassment, you remember that there is a distraction on the table. Please stop saying that and stop doing that. It's not right.
But Wemimo,
it's not right.
What he said about would there ever be equality in Nigeria, I also believe that we might never, because I think equality just puts an us and them situation in the minds of a lot of people, right? So what I think, and that's what a lot of people started doing when they started asking for equity as opposed to equality. So do you agree with the fact that, you know, we might never find equality? Okay, I think we have another caller. Let me take another caller. Wemimo, I'll come back to you. Good evening, you're live.
Okay, good evening, ma.
Good evening.
Good evening to your guest.
Good evening.
Okay, this is Pastor Ladipo.
Okay, good evening, Pastor Ladipo.
You see, the challenge I have here is this. I don't know, the Senate president, he presided over everything, including the suspension of this woman. And you see, even God himself gave a fair hearing when man fell. At least they should have given this lady a fair hearing. We are talking about gender equality. Even now, as I'm talking to you, that there's some women in that place, they are not supporting her. Everybody is tilting towards where they are going to gain one interest or the other. It's so painful. And if we allow these things to go through, it's going to set a bad precedent.
Thank you.
That people will get away with things that we would think that never happened before. They should have even given her what is it called? Her accusation a fair hearing. At least, whether he did it or not, why would the man be the one that will preside over everything?
Thank you, Pastor Ladipo. I absolutely agree with you, because for me, I think, you know, the decent thing to have been done, like it's a no-brainer. Step aside. You see, in Nigeria, power intoxicates, and what we have in Nigeria is absolute power. And absolute power intoxicates absolutely. You cannot be there as sitting as Senate president and they will not say, you are guilty. No, it's not possible now. But if you step aside and allow the people to do the thing that they're supposed to do, investigate thoroughly, then if they come back to say, okay, they've not found you guilty, then it's fine. That will show that you have nothing to hide. But you've sat throughout all those proceedings and you expect anything to come out from what it is that you have commanded for it. I mean, it is what you say that goes. But let's continue. So we were touching quickly on equity, because as we are talking now, time is just flying. Equity, equality,
Yes,
what do you think?
We need to take a quick lesson. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to class. Quick lesson on gender equality, right? Now, let me make a mistake that a man and woman can be the same. We're not the same in every mode. We can never, that's why there's a delineation. There's man and there is woman. When we talk about gender equality, we talk about equal access to opportunities to explore and to become the fullest potential, to determine and explore your fullest potential. Equal access to opportunities to be the best version of yourself as a man and as a woman. That's the equality, call it equity that we're talking about. We're not saying that a woman will begin to behave like a man or a man will begin to behave like a woman, because that is impossible, okay? We're talking about access. For instance, a girl would not stay home when a boy goes to school. A girl will not be cooking while the boy is watching TV.
Wemimo, you are employed with a man, same role, same everything. You are paid lesser and a man is paid higher.
And you know, I've heard people make a conversation and say, oh, but the man is the head of the home, so he should earn more. He's not the head of my home. It's head of his home. I don't care. He's not the head of my home. He's my colleague. If I put in the same hour, the same roles, we had better get the same pay.
Yeah.
Because someone like me, I'm going to get the same pay or even more. That's me, right? So that's what we talk about, equity. And if you believe in fairness and justice, you cannot but believe in gender equality.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So let's quickly touch on gender-based violence. How do we start to intentionally protect women against gender-based? I know a lot of great organizations are doing amazing things, creating safe shelters for them, providing legal services for them, you know, helping them even with just general awareness on what they need to know. They've also done a lot of public campaigns around, you know, just to intensify, you know, how, gender-based violence is harmful to the society. So what more can we do? Then we can now touch quickly on economic empowerment for women, because I believe that one of the biggest tools that, you know, has really caused a lot of inequality, especially when it comes to women, is the empowerment, financial resources that is available to women. Because a lot of times, a woman would endure so many things because she's not financially empowered to probably walk away from a very daring situation that is, you know, a threat to her life, just because she does not have any other means, right, to sustain herself or survive. So how do we start to intentionally protect women?
Oh, that is also a long road ahead. So one of the things what C does, one of the many things, is to provide legal support, pro bono legal support for victims of sexual and gender-based violence. It's not just that, psychological support. So they see a psychologist. There's also a shelter. What he also offers a shelter for victims of sexual and gender-based violence. So you can know that the core of our work is around women's rights. And we've seen so many cases of LGBT that's so perplexing and very sad. One of the active things we're doing, aside helping the victims and reestablishing the survivors, is to also, like I mentioned earlier, speak to policymakers and stakeholders to understand the reality of what is at stake. Many times when the policies finally are passed for recent back, the Violence Against Persons Prohibition Act, after so many years, you will find out that many lawyers still do not know the details of BAP. Policemen still do not know the details of BAP, right? If they don't, judges still don't know the details of BAP. So like I said, some weeks ago, we had a meeting with some judges across the country and told them about the BAP, gave them copies of the BAP, and showed them how the BAP would help them, you know, when they're sitting on cases of SGPV, so that we have the law in one hand, but we can implement it with the other hand. So it's a long way, because sexual and gender-based violence is a social problem. It's a deep, core social problem rooted in the fact that many men were raised to believe that they are better than women because they have a penis. And I can't for the life of me understand it. That's the only thing we're different in, our organs. And as our mental capacities is dependent on how so many factors. It's not male or female. So you find all of these things happening, and it's a societal problem. So the shift is happening state by state. In Lagos, for instance, we've seen great improvement. The Lagos State Sexual and Domestic Violence Agency is doing fabulous work, you know, including having a sexual offenders register that they publish regularly. You see them on Twitter. They'll put the name of the fellow. So these are things, possible deterrents for others.
Since you touched on Lagos State, a quick question. You remember the case of Dr. Femi Olaleye? So, you know, recently he was, you know, cleared of all charges, you know, released, and, you know, and I mean, he's been bombarded, even said to launch a book or something like that. You know, how does that make you feel? Because, I mean, the case, in my own mind, with what we saw, it was clear evidences, even including video evidences and all of that, and you see something like this happen. Does this tell you that, I mean, does it not dampen the spirit of the people that are trying to fight for justice, you know, especially when it comes to cases of gender-based violence and abuses? Does this not dampen it? Because it tells you that one powerful person, once you are powerful, you can get away with anything. You can literally get away with murder in Nigeria.
Yeah, but we all know that's the truth. It's a sad truth and sad reality of where we are politically in Nigeria. Power topples everything. It's not just money. It's power. It's who you know and what truth or what secret you wield over whoever has the right to make the final decision. So we know it's a power to, and we understand. Many times it's frustrating because it looks like you've taken 10 steps forward and you take 2 backward. But we appreciate the 8 steps that we've taken forward. And we keep encouraging ourselves to say that we will continue to count our gains and not just weep over our losses. The gains give us encouragement to go on. Every woman's case who is successfully prosecuted, every woman whose life is reestablished, everyone who sees a psychologist and who's able to find herself again and leave her abusive relationship and see herself as a human being and explore her potential is a win for us. So is it discouraging? Yes. So we need the judiciary to be aligned with us in fighting sexual violence.
Awesome. So finally, let's touch on education and healthcare access, right? Because we know that the government must also prioritize these gender-sensitive education policies to ensure that there's equal learning opportunities for girls as well as boys. You know, additionally, improve healthcare services that are tailored specifically for the needs of women. You know, maternal health, reproductive rights, and of course, all of those things should be accessible both for urban and rural areas, women in rural areas. So how do we continue to reinforce that to ensure that, you know, yes, because again, some of these things, like you rightly said, in the urban areas, I mean, Lagos is leading in a lot of ways. Ekiti is also doing something around, you know, gender. But when you go to the core rural areas, this is where you start to see. And for me, if one part of one part of us is failing, all of us is failing. So because it's supposed to be a collective win, and it's a collective failure as well. So how do we start to intentionally, ensure that this thing goes round and it covers all bases, whether you're in the rural, whether you're in the urban area?
Okay, so first I would like to acknowledge every women's rights organization, WROs, working in rural areas. There are some of them, and they just stay within rural areas, right? So again, the work is a tedious one. It's a long and deep work to do, but changes here and there is what we see. So I'll speak more to the maternal health. Now, Nigeria's maternal mortality ratio is very terrible. And when I see people online, especially on Twitter, make jokes around women getting pregnant and like, oh, what's it with? It's not just to get pregnant and have a child. I just shake my head. Women die because they want to bring life. And one of the advocacies that WOTC is leading currently is to reduce the number of women who die from postpartum hemorrhage. Now, many women, while after delivering their babies, they bleed to death. So we're leading advocacies within communities, going to communities to talk to primary healthcare centers, traditional birth attendants, religious housing where women give birth. So we go down to communities, not just in Lagos, in the north, in the south, in every part of Nigeria, to talk about postpartum hemorrhage and how we can stop it to save women's lives. So we need to do more work, yes, to ensure that it's not just the paperwork, is that we save the life of every woman.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Unfortunately, we're having fun and we ran out of time, but thank you. We'll definitely bring you back to keep on talking about these things because we can't exhaust the conversation. Thank you so much. And to those that sent us messages, greetings, Osa. The man needs to recluse himself. Of course he does. Step aside and be probed, but no, it's in Nigeria. He will not do that. Nigerian Senate is in a bankruptcy of credibility and morality. This was from Raphael Zaria. Thank you so much to everyone that sent in messages. Sorry, I can't read all the messages. Now, the theme is accelerated action, call for urgent, measurable steps towards achieving gender equality in Nigeria. The challenge facing women from political suppression to economic marginalization and gender-based violence requires immediate intervention, right? So I would love to say that thank you again to Enough is Enough. They partner with us every Monday to bring some of these great guests that you see, discuss different issues as it affects us in terms of policy, governance, leadership, politics, and all of that. So thank you to Enough is Enough. All right, so if you missed our quote for today, where is it? Oh, thank you again. Thank you, Wemimo, for joining me. It says, one of the best ways to forge gender equality is to understand what works and do more of this faster. I'll see you guys tomorrow at 8 p.m. Please enjoy the rest of your evening.
Nigeria, by extension Africa, battles a growing youthful population, and with little or no meaningful engagement, lives a ticking time bomb on our hands. We are a blessed continent with great wealth, both in people and material. Our focus on ways remains driving conversations that affects us all. Topics in the news, social concerns, politics, leadership, governance, empowerment, resource management, conflict management, finance, SME sustainability, technological innovation, food security, health, education, brain drain, our well-being, citizenship, and much more. Our goal is to continuously drive these conversations, keep them burning at the table to effect a positive change both for our nation and continent. Ways, what are you saying, has a secret ingredient that completes the conversation every single episode, and that ingredient is you. Our past conversations shaped our yesterday. To shape our tomorrow, we must keep talking. So, I want to hear you. Be a part of our live conversations Mondays through Fridays. And let's all have our say.